Cooper, when's the next Nunchuck video?
Bob, I told you. Shh. Now, I know many of the people coming from Shad's channel are not actively involved in the martial arts community. So, before we continue, there's something I must clarify. Nothing in the modern martial arts world is ever cut and dry. There's a time and place for everything. All martial arts styles have something useful to add to your arsenal, and all martial arts styles have something that you should throw out the window when you are considering a real street confrontation. Like the yin and yang, there is always black in the white and white in the black. That said, let's continue with this beautiful traditional weapon. In creating your original video, Shad, you unintentionally clashed two worlds of martial arts that have kind of avoided eye contact for a long while. The HEMA community and the martial arts community. For that, I thank you. Hopefully, both of us can learn something from this video saga. Now, I'd like to start off by saying that I have no scientific proof that nunchucks strike as hard or harder than a stick of equal length. Nor do I care. Yet, for some reason, everybody, including Shad, thinks that I said this. I was simply defending what they are able to do. The sound comparison I made was not just, and I understand this. A lot of people seemed to lose their minds when I started pointing out flaws about the nunchuck, and that I wasn't admitting that it was a terrible weapon. And I'm gonna talk honestly about this weapon, about the nunchucks, because I have no pride in promoting something that is not applicable for the sake of a tradition or a biased opinion. Doing that can get somebody severely injured.
That's it!
Okay. There are things that many weapons can't do that others can do or do better. Especially when you start to talk about specific situations. That's the martial arts world. Now, I'd like to address the most concerning point that I made in my nunchuck video. And that is when I said, all weapons lose all effectiveness when you get within close range of somebody. See, in the moment, I was referring to longer weapons such as a girth stick, a staff, or a sword when somebody gets into grappling you. I'm not talking about kissing range, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about clothes being grabbed, arms being pulled, legs being lifted, you know. If somebody lifts you off the ground, I guarantee you're more worried about your pelvic bone cracking on the concrete than holding on to your flimsy sword. In my video, that point was my miswording and I apologize. There are many weapons, such as daggers and knives, that retain a ton of effectiveness within extremely close range.
One stab, flesh wound, okay? Two stabs, dead.
Now. I'm not going to explain to you guys the physics of the nunchucks like Shad did, like I'm some kind of physicist. Because frankly, I'm not. But I will say, in order to understand the impact potential of a weapon, you simply have to understand Newton's second law of motion, which clearly states that the force is always equal to the acceleration of an object times the mass of the object. Now, the nunchucks inherently being a faster weapon than most increases its acceleration a lot. However, you are limited to one link of the nunchuck in its mass because this is the mass that is hitting the opponent as it moves. So you are limited to the one link of mass because this piece is controlling that mass. Now, you could imagine what kind of force increases you could get if you simply swap the material of the nunchuck to, say, a thicker, denser piece of wood, heavier piece of wood, or a solid piece of steel.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
I would love to see somebody with experience with the nunchucks test this, or maybe myself if I have the money someday.
Hey guys, higher quality mic here. I'm adding this post-recording the video because I'd just like to add that there is a video that does this exact thing that Shad likely won't make a response to because it's rather accurate. But it's by Wushu Engineer, and it's called Nunchucker versus Simple Stick. And this is it right here. I'd really suggest you check it out if you really want to know more about the power potential between the nunchuck and the stick, as Wushu Engineer does a brilliant job of displaying and calculating these things. Thanks.
Okay, on a more serious note, who taught you how to strike? No. Who? Because anybody who does ballerina spins at the end of their strikes or gallops towards their opponent like a horse before they strike should not be giving professional martial arts advice on a weapon that they are not well educated on.
Baba Booey. Baba Booey. Baba Booey.
the weirdest things Shad brought up in his video that I just have to address is when he said that you can't constantly get lethal strikes with a pair of nunchucks like shown in the Zombie Go Boom video, where they're perfectly positioned and they basically annihilate and smash the ballistic head's cranium into pieces. No duh, you can't constantly get lethal strikes with these. You can't with a stick, you can't with a staff, you can't with a sword, you can't with a spear. It's called combat. When your opponent is constantly moving and you are having to adapt, all martial artists who take what they learn and apply them to sparring understand that a kill shot, a KO shot, is a rare and difficult thing to achieve. Let's demonstrate with an active attacker whether this weapon will bounce off and hit me. Obviously, I can't predict what an active attacker will do back and forth wise, but I will have appropriate reactions of retreat and attack based on my own training. Now, in the clip you're about to see, it is considered a very light kind of spar. He's wearing some gear, he's got a wooden knife, he's gonna come at me, basically he's gonna try and touch me as much as he can with that knife, try and slice me up with that wooden knife, and my goal is to avoid it at all costs and get as many strikes on the head as I can with my foam pair of nunchucks. So that is what you'll be seeing here. So let's see if I can manage this uncontrollable distance. Thou speaketh.
That's alright. I surrender. We're back with our heavier pair of nunchucks here, and basically, if you just want to get rid of the knife or the baton that the attacker has altogether, you just gotta hit on their knuckle, and I'm sure they'll probably let go of it if it's a wooden bear or a steel bear, right? So basically, we come across here, boom, boom, knife's gone, and I just broke it. So as you saw in the demonstration, we actually shattered the knife. So it shattered at the hilt here, and I just super glued it and electric taped it, and we're ready to go again. But yeah, that was, I just wanted to use the heavier pair to demonstrate better, but I guess we'll have to use the foam pair. So we don't break more weapons here. You are holding this knife at medium grip strength, is that right? Yes, I am.
All right. So a basic combination would be disarming the knife this way and coming up to the head that way. And I'm going to demonstrate it now. Sight! Also, did you just say that the nunchucks bouncing off the opponent and hitting me would be enough to put me out of commission? This is quite peculiar, seeing that you said that nunchucks don't have much blunt force or lethality as compared to other blunt weapons. Just imagine what one decent knock would do.
Jousting. Yeah.
Right? I didn't say it, you did. Now, Shad, as you said, all weapons are scary. A force multiplier in itself is scary. However, as you've also stated, many people do not know how to use the nunchucks or are familiar with the use of them. So if somebody sees the nunchucks being used to a proficient level, they would be cautious, to say the very least, even if they had seen your videos and even if they had tried to talk all tough in my comments section. Another thing Shad has brought up is that when you strike with nunchucks, if you're too close, you lose your leverage because the nunchuck, rather than hitting with the fastest traveling part of the nunchuck, it's hitting with the inside, causing the nunchucks to do a wrap like this, right? So if I hit them, it wraps around and all of my strength is lost. See, now this is only a problem with inexperienced fighters or inexperienced people who really shouldn't be using the nunchuck, because an experienced martial artist will understand that at a distance like that, you have to adjust your technique accordingly. So, if I'm too close at this range to where the nunchuck will mostly just round off, right, I can use my martial arts training, step back, and strike him on the head, right? Or, if I'm forced to be this close, I can adjust my technique by moving backward and hitting him on the head like so. So really, this isn't an issue with people who are actually trained. To break this video up a bit, I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite nunchuck strikes that I practice on my own. And if you do want to learn any of these strikes, I highly recommend you receive professional instruction. I will be releasing some YouTube videos that will hopefully help you along the road with tutorials on this weapon. So everybody knows the punch. It's a great nose hitter, a great head hitter. Then we have the side strike, or the diagonal strike. Then we have an uppercut we can do by switching right on the chin. Then we have a double strike, which can be performed either diagonally, like that, or it can be performed more uniform, sideways, 1 and 2. So like so, 1, 2, right? Or sideways. Many people seem to lose their shit when I struck the target with the stick, because, oh, he didn't follow through, he didn't complete the strike, so not all the momentum was transferred. Okay, I hear ya. Allow me to explain. The reason I was trained to stop the strike is for the sake of control. We stop the strike to control the strike. Any martial artist who's ever been in a sparring situation knows the absolute and utter physical and mental disappointment of missing your strike when you throw it, missing a punch when you throw it, missing a kick when you throw it. It's a horrible feeling because you're ready to follow through on that strike. Your muscles are expecting a form of resistance and they don't meet that resistance. So what happens is oftentimes the muscle ends up getting pulled. Not only are you left off balance because you were expecting to hit something, but on top of that, your muscle could be pulled. The way that I train and the way that I was taught where we stop the strike is not before we visualize after we have already hit the object. So if I'm doing a sideways strike here, I'm visualizing stopping the stick here. So my peak momentum is right in the middle of this guy's head. So I stop it here, but my peak momentum is right as I hit him. Obviously, I'm not training to stop here, right? At him. I'm training to stop here, so that all of the momentum that I've built up from that strike can be dispersed in the target. However, I train in case it doesn't hit. My muscles know how to stop the stick. So I can follow through, see? Okay? But if I miss that, I could end up looking like Shad, like a ballerina. Like. So, you train to stop after your peak momentum has passed. So, for me, even though I followed through on that strike, this feels extremely similar to me. I'm gonna end up breaking my bob. And when you start learning short sticks or eskrima sticks properly, you can learn that you can chain together 2 strikes. So I can go 1 and I can go 2. And then I don't even really have to pause because my body understands what it's like to follow through and lead into another strike. Right? So if I'm on bob, right? Something a lot of people don't actually understand about the eskrima style or the short stick style is that when we're striking, not only are we actually using our arms, right, our shoulders, our bodies, but we are also using the flick of our wrist to increase the momentum as we strike. And Shad thinking my nunchucks are commercially made? No. These are just 2 pieces of poplar attached by a metal aluminum chain wrapped in black and red electrical tape. And they are rather thin, though I think they pack quite a bit of power. Again. Again.
He's already dead.
If you had a heavier material and a longer chain, the amount of power that you'd be able to produce with that kind of pair would be pretty substantial. Now you've taken my respecting culture points and attempted to comprehend them using your limited mind, Shad. See now, in different cultures we have different ways of respecting certain things. In Asian-based martial arts, it's considered disrespectful to drop or throw your weapon in any form of frustration or anger. Some would even say dropping it accidentally alone is disrespectful. When I myself was learning the traditional samurai sword, if the weight of the sword was too much and a young student had simply tapped the sword on the floor by accident, the teacher would come over and scold them. Weapons are tools and extensions of our skill and soul as martial artists, and they should be respected as such. Not the way you've treated nunchucks. And when I was talking about exploring cultures, I was referring to you, Shad, who very clearly only studies old ways of European swordsmanship and fighting methods. Granted, those are very cool, and I love them a lot because I can respect all kinds of fighting, while seeming to entirely forget the basis of Asian martial arts, yet showing them to your subscribers in an indoctrination. No. There are risky strikes with all weapons, Shad. Example would be a spinning sword strike. Nunchucks have reliable strikes, like a punch, and nunchucks have unreliable strikes, such as a spinning thing, just like a sword. Scalagrim would likely tell you this fact, but he'd rather not correct you on something so unbelievably redundant. I'm not even going to address the dick and virginity jokes that Shad made because I'd like to keep my channel a little bit more professional. When I made fun of you, Shad, that was because your technique was actual trash in the eyes of many professional martial artists. Hard to Hurt did a far more honest and professional video on the matter of the nunchucks, addressing the advantages and disadvantages while explaining to his audience that he did not know everything about the weapon. Yet, his professional conclusion was quite different than yours. However, you were the one essentially claiming to create a truth on the matter. And Shad, the fact that you thought I was claiming this is some form of defense is really quite hilarious. I thought it was rather obvious in my video that I was simply showing that a hard object spinning extremely fast in front of somebody is not an easy thing to approach, and likely scares opponents off. To hold this spin in a confrontation is not a smart thing to do. When I'm talking about the nunchucks as a weapon, I'm more referring to what their modern use is, a self-defense type weapon. Now, for some reason, Shad thinks that all weapons in existence have to have defense. I find this peculiar, as many effective self-defense weapons do not have a form of defense. Let's take a look at Scalagrim's steel whip that he reviewed. What about a hefty flashlight? What about a taser? Wait, I don't think these things have any form of defense, beyond what you can do yourself as a martial artist, of course. Shad, would you call those weapons useless too?
Do it.
I swear, if I had a dollar bill for every time I heard Shad say pop culture in his videos, I would have a literal mountain, guys.
I told you, I'm a man of my word. Where's the Italian?
To address Shad's weird pop culture obsession, Bruce Lee may have brought the nunchucks into the limelight in the 1970s. However, they'd already been a weapon in the Okinawan art of Kabuto for a long time. Bruce was actually introduced to the nunchucks through a good friend named Dan Inosanto, and Dan said that after 1 month of Bruce using the nunchucks, he'd already looked like he'd been using them for years. I'm not going to cover the legality of the nunchucks because Scalagrim already did a fantastic job in this video here, and I highly recommend you check it out. Now, Shad, your understanding of what telegraphing an attack is really quite worries me as a martial artist. The nunchucks do not require a load up to gain speed, as much of the speed is gained from the movement of the wrist and the chuck link itself, demonstrated like so. So if I have my arm out here, I'm not moving my shoulder, I'm not moving my elbow joint, nothing. I can just start swinging the nunchuck, and I can gain quite a bit of speed in it without moving my arm, or my shoulder, or my elbow. Can you move a stick as fast as that in the same position?
Do it.
When you are deciding who to listen to about, let's say, the nunchucks or a weapon online, you need to use your own independent head and logic. There are guys who will claim that they'll have 50 years in the martial arts online. Some of them will literally be owning the McDojos plaguing our society today.
Baba. Boy.
The martial arts is a dog-eat-dog world. So, in conclusion, I guess you could call them a self-defense weapon for martial artists and not for the average person. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I was able to clear the air and finalize some of my arguments because, frankly, I don't think there's much of a point returning to this. I've already clarified that it is not a weapon for the average person to use, and that if you are going to decide to use it, that you should be very careful and go through quite a bit of training. Before we end the video, I'd just like to clarify a couple of things, as being exposed to over 1 million people through Shad was really unexpected, and none of you know who I am, none of you know what my mission is, none of you know what I've accomplished. So I'd just like to clarify something before we end this video, and that is that I do not condone fighting. I do not condone going out and seeking a confrontation. I believe in living a defensive life, living a peaceful life, living one where you have the skills to be able to defend your loved ones and yourself if need be as a last resort, but being peaceful and kind to others. I also encourage you to subscribe to my channel, as we're going to be doing a ton of different content. We're going to be doing MMA tutorials, self-defense tutorials, combo tutorials, kick tutorials, punch tutorials, weapons lessons. I know y'all want to see that, so hit that subscribe button, hit that share, hit that comment. I hope you all have a damn good day, and I'll see you next time.